All right, we are going to call this special board of directors meeting to order at 6:13 p.m. This board is written and supports a land acknowledgement and anti-racism statement that we have posted on our website. Roll call for the meeting. Brian Cope has an excused absence. He's out gallivanting in the mountains. And I think everybody else is here. So we'll move into adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion to do that?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, that passes. Move into announcements. I know, Linda, you said you got one. I'll let you go first.
Okay, I do. Last call, everybody, for AGM candidate deadline reminder. A reminder to the community that anyone wishing to submit an AGM candidate application for either the board, NNE, or the ACC, the deadline is Tuesday, September 7th. The current hours of operation of the admin offices are that they close at 4 p.m. other than phone or email communication. So you will need to submit your application by then if you wait until the last day. Also, the administration office is closed on Monday, September 6th in recognition of Labor Day. NNE members will be present should you have any last minute questions. Applications are available online and paper copies are available at the office. You can always email me at bodbradley@suddenvalley.com with any questions. There is a candidate drawing meeting of the NNE scheduled for 4:30 p.m. on the 7th, where the applications will be opened, vetted, and the names will be placed in a drawing for their positions on the AGM ballot. Everybody get your applications in.
All right, any other announcements?
Linda, I just want to say real quick, Linda did a shout out for the ACC.
Oh, no, I didn't, but you can, I didn't know where you stood with that right now.
Yeah, there's only one elected member. So we got 8 open spots. So just so the community knows, if you're interested in joining the ACC, please put in an application and hopefully you can join our team.
Maybe Keith, tell our viewers what ACC is.
Architectural Control Committee. So we'll go through and approve fences, paint colors, new housing, tree removals, everything really related to the exterior of your home. That's it.
All right. And on top of that, we're also, going to be currently accepting applications and stuff for committees and stuff for next year as well. All of our standing committees. All right, moving on, unless any other announcements. All right, we'll move into first round of property owner comments before we get into our new business.
All right, let's see. We do have a couple of attendees. So if anyone would like to jump in for property owners comments, just use raise hand and I'll bring you over to the meeting.
They're holding comments until after. See how it all turns out tonight.
All right. Move forward. Seeing none, there'll be another round at the end. All right, we got 2 new items of business to go over tonight, all AGM related. Trying to get everything put together for our ballot packets to be ready to be mailed out to the community and shortly after our next meeting next week. So the first order of business is bylaw amendments that are being brought for the board to be able to be approved, to be put on the ballot for the membership to vote on. I think probably maybe it's easiest to kind of go through these one at a time and we can have discussions on each one rather than try to go through all of them and then do discussions on all of them. So to kind of start, measure number one is obviously our budget measure always. So anything that comes after the budget. So that's why it's measure number 2 to start. So the first measure that's being proposed to the board tonight is a bylaw amendment to exclude member petition assessment increases. And so in discussions with our legal counsel on this topic, he advised us that it is not legal at this point under state law for the members to propose a petition that increases or decreases our dues for that matter. Basically anything budget related. The state law outlines a specific process for how the budget is done. And that explanation is basically there. I'm not going to read all of this, obviously. You've had it now and sorry, brain fart there for a second. The big thing with this is, so it's unenforceable for this type of vote to occur at a SGM or an AGM. And basically what would happen is with our current bylaws, the president would be obligated to call a special general meeting if a petition was presented, even though it is legal or illegal. And so we would have to go through all of the rigmarole of calling a special general meeting, putting together all the ballot materials, mailing everything, having the meeting, and then having the vote, and then basically it would be deemed an invalid vote at that point in time. And so the language that's being presented here, which is what's highlighted in red, that's the additional language that's being added. Nothing else is being changed in that bylaw section. Is just basically saying it makes it so the president's not obligated to call an SGM if the matters that are submitted by the membership, to be voted on by the membership would violate state law. And so kind of a couple caveats here. If there was a membership petition that proposed like multiple different things to be put on an SGM, and one of them was legal and one of them was not legal, so if a bylaw change was proposed at an SGM and then a budget change also, the president would still be obligated then to call the SGM. The votes would all happen because one of them was legal. The one that is legal, would be valid, and then the one that's not at that point would be deemed invalid. And so basically the goal here after talking, with Richard, was that, would not be in any of our best interest to go through all that process. The community gets heavily involved in those things. There's a lot of, back and forth that goes with that too. The board gets, the board and NNE get burdened with a great deal of amount of work that has to get put in to put together an SGM and everything like that. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of that bylaw amendment. Are there any questions related to that? Linda?
Not a question, but maybe something. So I'm looking at what's in our current bylaws, and there's actually a section here that isn't redlined, but it's also language that isn't in the current copy of the bylaws that I can find. It's right before the red section, the president. There's a line above that starts association, said petition specifying the purpose of the SGM. That's in the current bylaws. and/or the matters to be submitted to the membership for a vote is not there. That's new language. If we could run back and if we could check that, I looked at that when I got all this stuff. And if we're gonna add language, that should get underlined. Or we take it out of there.
So it came from the attorney like that? So
I don't
I'm
know.
trying to pull my bylaws up. He maybe just didn't underline the whole thing. We can have him, redo it, but yeah, that's just a copy paste, right, AJ? On there from what he wrote.
Let me double check quick.
Sorry, I don't have I'm getting the bylaws.
Yeah, it is, the attorney did have that language in it, so I think it just needs to be redlined then to
That's
reflect
fine.
that. Because yeah, I'm not seeing it in there as well, so that was just an oversight.
That's fine. No problem.
So we can make that change. So yeah, it would just be starting at and/or
Yep.
would be part of that red line.
Know that you're not gonna see red line. Our voting, our pamphlets are black and white, but there's either a cross out or an underlined and bold. And that's not on these, but it needs to get added to each one of the measures when that goes into the pamphlet.
Okay, we should be able to do underline and bold. I think we should probably do both.
Just so you know that it won't be red. I just don't want to confuse anyone, because that came up last year, because we look at stuff that's redlined. And it's just when it goes in there, we don't do color. It's how we keep the cost as cheap as it is.
Okay. That makes sense. Perfectly reasonable. Yeah, so no one has any issues with that change, I'm assuming. Any other questions on that measure?
So,
Or-
hold on. So just because, I think, I know, just to be on the safe side, maybe after we, like we can just run it by him real quick, since he didn't highlight that, let's just make sure. So, just to make sure about that. I don't see any problem with it, but, sometimes that language can be tricky and we don't realize, and I don't want any unintended consequences. So maybe we just, real quickly, just make sure that, okay, you intended to add that, and we're going to underscore all of this, correct? Does that sound good? Just to make sure.
Joel?
Yeah, could you guys give a couple examples of what would no longer be, just for clarity?
Just items that would affect dues, basically. The state law says that the board is the one who is supposed to set the dues in the budget. So things like the rec special assessment that we currently have. There's a 2006 SGM for the culvert vegetation control plan. Those types of things are no longer considered legal.
Okay, and I think it's been a couple of weeks, but I had asked at some point if the recent bylaw limitation would still be legal. Do you mind explaining just for everybody else why it would
Yeah.
be?
That would still be legal as that's a bylaw change. So it's a policy change. It's not affecting the actual dollars or the dues being paid by the membership.
Oh, you want to know the difference between the two? Well, because, yeah, Linda has asked that in the document review. The difference is the bylaw limitation is just, it's limiting the amount that dues can increase in any given year. That is not actually dictating the board's decision-making on budgeting and creating the budget. You're not tying a board's hands on the budgeting. What you're doing with putting that limitation in, that is a reasonable amount that any reasonable board could work within. And all we're doing is just putting that little protection in there to make sure that we keep dues stable, so that we don't run into what we ran into a couple of years ago, where we got hit with 100% increase in less than a year and a half. And so the goal is that limitation just limits how much it can increase, but it doesn't impact the board's decision making, how they budget, what they budget on, or anything like that. These SGMs with the member petition, what happens is members who actually don't have access to all of the information that a board does, or the finance manager, they're dictating, like, this is where we should spend money. And like, for instance, the rec special assessment, that occurred because the board and the manager they were irresponsible, and they did not budget any money, $0 for recreation. So the response was, and I get the intent, the response was to put the special assessment. The problem is, what you should have done, they should have done, is held that board accountable for that, because the board let that happen, and the board's responsible. They're the fiduciaries of that. And the problem with budgeting operations of special assessments is, when that thing runs out, we now have all of our rec department, depending on who's on the board, you could actually wipe out that whole rec department, because it's not part of our operations. And if somebody doesn't do proper planning, which we're doing right now, right? But if we didn't do that, we've got a whole lot of people without jobs, and a very unhappy community who wants to have the rec facilities open. So the goal is to just get this operating like a multi-million-dollar corporation that it is. So does that help, Joel?
Yeah, thank you. It's just been a little while, and I know I had to ask like at least 5 times the last time I asked about it. So, and just in case anyone else was wondering the same thing.
No, I'm glad you did. Thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
Any other questions on that measure? All right, so we'll move down to measure 3 and measure 4, basically go hand in hand together. The bylaw amendment is to clarify borrowing and special assessment purposes. And so this is basically what Sonia just kind of alluded to with the rec special assessment. We start using special assessments to cover operational expenses, or for example, the culvert vegetation and control special assessment, that wasn't a special assessment, it was a dues increase, but it was put into capital funds, it's there to fund salaries and other various things as well. But, funding salaries from a special assessment is, not, like she said, it's not proper budgeting. We're not doing our job as a board if we're not creating a stable operations that functions, you know, basically the same year after year after year. We're, you know, leaving our community to constantly wonder, like, are the pools going to be open? Are we going to have, you know, Clean Green or Firewise? Or, you know, we went through a whole thing this year as this board, you know, because and Glenn brought this stuff forward and with Jacob, and we had to send it back to him because some of the money was needed to come from different places, because culvert vegetation control can only cover certain things. You're putting boxes around that money, which becomes challenging for our management staff to be able to budget the money accordingly and properly, and the board. And so, yeah, the point here is there's basically two different sections replacing association purposes. You know, the first one is basically, you know, it gives the board has the power to borrow money, which, you know, the board should have some power to borrow money. Some of these things we could potentially avoid a special assessment with the ability to borrow money, you know, or we can spread those costs out over a longer period of time and not have to, you know, burden the membership in a one big fell swoop, essentially. And so by putting the word proper purposes, like with the rec special assessment, they, you know, claim that this is for association purposes, but the reality is doing a special assessment for any association purposes is not proper. Special assessments should be used for projects. They should be used to do one-time things that have a specific timeline of how long it's going to take, what needs to be done. You know, like, for example, if we were going to, you know, remodel a building or something and it wasn't within our existing planning and budgeting process and it was deemed that it was needed, or if we were going to, you know, do something new, you know, those are projects. It's a capital improvement. That's what special assessments are used for, is capital improvement projects. And so measure 4, you know, basically strikes out that other association purposes and just says that special assessments we use for the purpose of paying any loans and or costs related to capital improvements and repair. So it's defined, you define a specific thing. It's not this open-ended operations funding, basically, that should be funded by the board to begin with. Any questions on that measure?
Yeah, I had my hand up. So it sounds like these terms were changed or voted on in the past, but now it's being proposed to clarify them so that we're specifying.
So the first one is a clarifying statement. Technically, a board, no matter what, has the duty of proper purpose. That's actually a duty of a board director. But what we saw during the rec special assessment, because many of us, including Linda and Sarah, pointed out that was inappropriate use of special assessments. Our bylaws had always read, you know, the special assessments for the purpose of paying the cost of capital improvements and repair and other proper purposes. That's how it had originally read. Once they changed it to association purposes, the board, and it's on record, it's on video, that was the justification for being able to then put operational expenses into a special assessment, because it fell under association purposes. When it was presented to the community, when they made that change in 2015, it said it was a clarifying statement, that was for clarity. Well, the first one, it's okay. You could say it's for clarity, right? We're just putting it back the way it was. But the second one is not for clarity. That's actually a significant change. And So it should never have been presented the way it was. And we're just trying to correct that error.
And the portion, one of the key duties of the board is the requirement to act in good faith and for a proper purpose. Is that written somewhere in our documents for Seton Valley?
What's in the law? I mean, you know, there's
like our 3 duties as a board, or, you know.
Okay, and it uses those specific words, and you're just trying to match
that you're reading the explanation. That's just the explanation. Like, we're not really we're not is that what you're talking about? That's the explanation.
Yeah, under the explanation, we're trying to match proper purpose.
Well, proper purpose is a legal term. It actually is it's a legal term. It's actually the thing that puts the legal teeth in it. So board directors have a fiduciary responsibility. No one else has that same responsibility. You are required, that's the legal teeth, that if you work outside that realm, you know, you can be sued, you know, you can be held accountable. You remove that. And even though the truth is it still exists, right? By law, we're still obligated to our duty. A proper purpose still exists. But the problem for us as a community, as we all know, because we watched this happen during this rec special assessment, who in our community is going to sue this association and challenge that if we have a board that, because we didn't correct this language, that this board then abuses that language and works outside of it again? Is there a community member that has the funds to go and challenge this multi-million-dollar corporation to get them to follow the law? We're trying to make sure that we're not putting that burden on this community. We know where the problem is. So even though, yeah, technically, we don't have to touch this. The law says you have to act with proper purpose, pure and simple. We're just putting it there to protect the community. That's on the first one, on the section 18. On section 19, though, that is a significant change, because as AJ said, you opened the door for any purpose. You can put a special assessment, like, you know, Joel brought this up, like he goes, oh, so like, you know, when we were working through this on the document review, because he was like, so that means like me and my friends could all say, well, we want to buy this big, you know, boat, and everybody has to pay for it. We can say you're all invited. You know what I mean? Like, you basically, it's inappropriate. Those are special assessments. They shouldn't be used for any purpose. And it's just a way of, because of Kiowa, it's almost impossible for this community to defeat the budget. So we have to put the restraints in here to ensure that boards act responsibly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I saw your hand, but it went down. You got something still?
I'm going to wait until we get to the next section. There's a little bit of history here that's tied all into this, and it goes with the next measure 4.
Okay. Is there any other questions on measure 3 and measure 4?
On measure, are we just doing measure 3, AJ, or are you going to do 4 now?
Well, there's 2 measures, so we're not trying to lump a bunch of changes into one measure. That's been done in the past too. It's confusing to people. You know, we've had measures on our ballots where it's like just clarifying, and they're changing language all over the place in all these different sections and stuff like that. And it's, you know, especially when it comes to what gets put in the actual ballot, you know, it's a more limited, you know, we have space, only so much space.
I think she just wants to comment on measure 4.
I just want to comment on measure 4, but I thought we were only working on measure 3 right now.
Sorry, these 2 kind of go hand in hand. So I was doing 3 and 4 at the same time.
Well, then when we get to 4, I have a little bit of history here that's kind of interesting.
Go ahead. We're gone 3 and 4 right now. So
So we're right now, when they redid and changed this language, they changed the numbering and stuff. But in the 2015 and before 2005 and 2015 and the older bylaws existed regarding special assessments, our bylaws used to say, in addition to the annual dues and assessments, a special assessment may also be levied by the board for the purpose of paying the costs of capital improvements and repair and other proper purposes as determined by the membership. And it says special assessment shall be established by the board and approved by a vote or not less than 60% of the members present in person or voting by proxy, because this is from the old stuff. What I'm saying is it talks about proper purpose there too. I don't know how many people have have the ability to go and look that far back, but I think that also explains why we should be putting proper purposes back into the language. It's just interesting that the membership had a right to determine that, because in theory, it is for the shareholders that the board acts with proper purpose to make sure that it is to everyone's benefit. And we're all members and we're all shareholders. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to give a little bit of history there. I thought it was interesting that that's what that used to say before they changed it to association purposes and took out a whole lot of the extra language that was in there.
So one thing that we can talk about that, and then I think everybody could consider, like which language do they like better? We took that out just so it wasn't, confusing that other, we were trying to
Yeah.
avoid that thing. But
I understand.
making it explicit that it's for capital improvements, basically.
But I also hear, like Linda's also referencing that there's that language that completes that goes with, let me see here. It said what she just said about the members. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm pulling
It just
up.
says paying the cost of capital improvements, repair, and other proper purposes as determined by the membership.
As determined by the membership. So, I mean, that just means the members vote on it, is what it's saying, that, that you're not going to get levied a special assessment without a vote of the membership. That's also a consideration that we could leave out, I don't know.
You don't need to put, it's just interesting. When I went back and was reading some of this stuff to see about these changes, I went back actually before you, because I agree with you, proper purpose needs to go back in there.
So are you
Yeah.
comfortable on measure 4 though, just by
I
taking
just
that?
I just wanted to give a little bit of history for you guys to know that proper purpose at one time was important in this association.
Mhm.
And it should still be now, and putting it back is the right thing to do.
Thank you.
I agree, Linda. And it, by having the language, in there that's being struck out now, it's,
Yes.
it's allowed a board to operate in a gray area.
Yep.
And they use that other association purposes as the leverage to be able to justify, a special assessment. And it's, let's be clear, no one here is saying that, the money being spent, to fund the rec department is bad or is any way not good. I think the community, the majority of the community agreed we want that stuff funded, but should have been the board that funded it properly along with that general manager at the time, and that didn't happen. Any other questions on this one? Or these two? All right, we'll move on to measure 5. This is a bylaw amendment to clarify the annual limitation on special assessments. So this is our SGM for the bylaw limitation, and we are trying to strengthen the language associated with it at this point in time. The previous boards removed our entire explanation sheet from our SGM that the petitioners all read through and determined that's what they agreed with when they signed the petitions. And the board chose to not include an explanation sheet with it. And then that was used against us because in our explanation sheet is where it discussed budgeted gross assessment revenues, and the language currently just says budgeted gross revenue. Well, they've tried to use that to include all of like golf's revenue, marina's revenue, rec's revenue, and any other revenue we bring in to be able to up what the limit of the 15% is that special assessments, the 15% limit for special assessments that 1,800 people voted for. And so we're looking to strengthen that language by specifically adding the word assessment revenue into that language so that debate can be put to bed. That was what we intended all along. That was what the drafters of the measure put together. That's what the petition people all read and agreed to when they signed the petition. And so we're here to fix that. Linda?
I just have a question for everybody. This little table is going to be part of the explanation in the pamphlet, correct? Or is that just for us? That's going to be part of what goes in the pamphlet, correct?
Are you worried it won't fit in there? Is that what it is?
I can make it. I just want to know if I need to make it fit. If I need to make it fit, I can make it fit.
Well, ideally, it would be nice if it's in there
All
just so
right.
that people, but and then we can address it, I guess, if there's some issue, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just clarifying that there's not a lot here. It's just, you got it all spread out on a nice big sheet of paper, but trust me, it works it will work.
Yeah, we tried to parse it off for review purposes for the board.
Yep,
So it's not
I
all,
get
but
it.
yeah, when you put it in the ballot, you'll use every last inch of space.
I hope so.
Mhm.
It'll go, what I'm saying, AJ, is what I'm saying is it will go in the pamphlet, but only the ballot language that's under ballot here in measure 5 will actually go on the ballot. I'm just worried about the pamphlet too, that all of this language is to go in there to explain this.
I think, yeah, see what you can do, and then we
I
can,
will.
we can work with that. We can
I'll
figure,
get there.
okay, yeah, because we can, I
I'm
think we
sure
can
it's
figure
not a
something
deal
out too.
breaker if it doesn't fit, but
Yeah,
It'll work. I just need to make sure that I know it needs to be there.
Stephanie's got her hand up.
Thank you.
An
Thank you.
idea is to always put that on the website too, that table. But I do like the idea of including the table because a lot of people are really visual, and the more words they're reading, they, at the end of the day, they have soccer games, dinner, whatever, that kind of stuff. So if they can look at that, that's really nice.
And
Anyway, I
Steffi,
see sense.
all this stuff is going to go on the website. A copy of the pamphlet's going to go on the AGM website. So all this stuff's going to be there in totality.
Kim, got your hand up?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. So gross assessment revenue would only be the categories that are in this table. Is that what this table is telling us?
It's assessment.
Yeah,
So
the dues
it-
that we pay.
So it doesn't include non-dues revenue in the calculation. the other thing that's not included in there is if there's any outstanding, like let's say the rec special assessment, that revenue from that is also not able to be used in the calculation for that revenue calculation.
So in the absence of the word assessment, then
You add about
Other-
$2.5 million
other
onto
things
it.
need to be put in, which would impact the 15%. And so we're trying to prevent any kind of chicanery in that area.
Right.
All right, great, thank you.
Any other questions on that one? All right, moving down to measure 6. So this was something that the N&E committee brought forward to us. They had a bylaw amendment to amend voting to remove the member in good standing restriction. They also brought forward a bylaw amendment to get rid of in-person voting on the day of the AGM. So 2 things we'll address here. We've talked about the member in good standing as a board previously with Linda. And I think, most people were in support of that. Obviously Sam and Andy were not with us at that time. This is the language for the member in good standing. So originally you were only allowed to vote on the budget if you were not in good standing, as in you were delinquent on your dues at the time of the AGM. And so with WICOA passing and the inability for, our community and our size and the history to be able to reasonably reject a budget that the board puts together, you have very little recourse to, your vote basically does not matter that much. You can vote on the budget, but the likelihood that the budget can get rejected is very slim. I mean, it is possible, but even amidst everything that we saw, it still fell short over the last, or 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago now. And so the purpose of this is, currently, if you're not in good standing, you're not allowed to vote on the directors. And so the board is the one who ultimately adopts the budget, and then the membership ratifies the budget through the vote. And so what we're basically proposing here, and this is just like state and federal and local elections, you could have, late taxes and things like that. You still get a vote for your elected officials. What we're proposing here and what the N&E brought forward is that we allow all members to vote on directors as well as the budget. They always had the ability to vote on the budget, but because of WICOA, being able to vote on the directors is the most important aspect of it. And the people who are behind on dues are the ones that are the most negatively impacted by any increases. So their lack of ability then to be able to vote on a director that they feel is, going to bring the values and stuff that they would like to see on the board of directors and in our community, this provides them that opportunity.
And it's extended past, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to kind of pivot for just a second onto the other thing real quick.
Well, I just wanted to, it actually extends to all voting, like for the committee members, any budget items, basically anything that's put up on the AGM or SGM. So, yeah.
Yes.
So there you go.
Clarification. Steffi?
Because you should be able to vote on all the measures, despite how you are doing financially, because we are not part of a caste or carceral society out here. And so we believe that everyone has the right to vote. regardless. Thank you, AJ. Thanks for doing that.
I wanted to piggyback on.
Well, I was Annie, so I'm not going to take credit.
Yeah, well,
Thanks for bringing it forward, though. And thank you, Enemy.
You're welcome.
I agree with Stephanie or Steffi. I think that this shows that our community is inclusive. It makes sure that regardless of how you're doing financially, you still have a voice. And we're not saying to people, if you don't have any money, you can't have a voice in our community. And I think this is an excellent measure, moving in the right direction, to be more in a more inclusive community. So thank you, Annie.
And
You
then
guys,
as for the second thing that Annie brought to us, the getting rid of in-person voting. So that was in discussions with Richard, our attorney. There is a new state law that's come into effect this year, and that would be illegal to get rid of in-person voting. The state law actually requires us to afford our membership the 3 different opportunities: in-person voting, ballots by mail, and by proxy voting. And so we did not bring that one forward because of that result. We're obviously going to need to have a discussion here with Linda, and we're going to need to ask the N&E committee to figure out a process at this point in time for allowing proxy voting for this election. Linda, I knew you'd have your hand raised for this one.
proxy voting and mail-in ballots are 2 completely different things, and you can't do both. You can't do a hybrid of both. The law that we were formed under has been amended as of, I think it takes effect January 22nd, but it's always said that we can do mail-in ballots if it's in our bylaws. And we voted a long time ago to be able to do that and go away from proxies. Proxies are just, a lot of people don't use them. Proxies give people the right to give away their voting authority to someone else. And it's real I wish you'd all go take a look, and probably even the one we were formed under says that you can do mail-in voting only if you opt for that, just like also online voting. If we do away with this member in good standing thing, it clears a path to open mail-in or online voting, depending upon where the board goes with that. But you can't proxy voting and mail-in voting. Proxy voting, you can give your proxy to someone else. I could give you all could give your proxies to Sonia, and Sonia could vote all of your votes the way she wanted to vote. And it's very, very different type of voting. When we used to have all of our mail delivered at the rotunda, we used to have recycle bins up there. You used to be able to go and look at the dozens of proxy votes that would be thrown in there unopened by members, because it's so confusing to understand how to vote them.
Well, the state law says you have to offer all 3, so you can definitely do them together. That, they wouldn't, I don't think the legislator would make a law that was not able to be accomplished.
So on January 25th of this year, there was substitute Senate Bill 5011. It's now been codified as RCW 6438-120. And so it's a new section in the HOA Act that it basically, just like AJ said, it talks about members may vote at a meeting in person by absentee ballot or by proxy. It does not say except as otherwise provided in the association's governing documents. That means it overrides our governing documents.
Yeah,
Well,
so
then I
we,
got news for you. For this year, we can't because we already signed an agreement that we were only going to do mail-in ballots and we would have one ballot. A proxy is another form of a ballot.
Yeah, but
well, the
all it
proxy
is
could
they.
be, we could offer the proxy only in person voting. You know, it doesn't say how we have to allow the proxy. It leaves that up to us. So I think, you know, Linda, we're gonna need you to go back to the N&E committee and discuss that and try and figure out, you know, I realize this is not great timing for everything and we are in crunch mode here and, you know, this is a recent change to the law, but we're gonna need to try to figure something out.
So, so Linda, maybe Unilec may actually have, even though that's not the agreement currently, maybe Unilec may actually have that option that they may be able to help with.
Yeah, I
Might
think
be able
it
to,
might
but
be
it's,
helpful for you to reach out to them. I mean, we can always amend a contract if we need to. So, you know, let's, you know, maybe it would be, you know, tomorrow's Friday. I don't know what you have going on. Maybe if you have time tomorrow, you could try to reach out to them before the weekend and see what they say. You know, they do elections. Proxies are used in a lot of different elections. I do agree they are more complicated than just, you know, in-person and mail-in ballots. But the law is kind of forcing the issue here for us. And so we're going to have to figure out what that process is going to look like.
but if you
No.
have to allow everyone in the community that option, you have to mail that proxy
No, I
along
think
with their mail-in ballot.
I don't see why we just couldn't, if they ask for proxy, then we give them a proxy. Why would we need to give it to everybody unless they ask
Because
for it?
then you would still have to submit that with, how do I say this? You have to make a way that everyone in this association has that option.
Why couldn't we print that language on the ballot and say, you know, if you need a proxy, contact blah, blah, Linda Bradley.
No, not me, boy. I want to go look at the 60, I want to go look at 6403 because I looked at that.
6438 120.
I know that's the HOA Act, but then there's the act that we were formed under.
Oh, 2403. So that
Oh, yeah,
changes.
and I
in-
want to
in
go look
January.
and see what that says, and then I'll get back with you. Or where's the, let's see, we meet, the entity meets on the 7th. The only thing we're going to do then is do candidate applications. But we have another meeting on the 13th to hopefully deadline stuff. Unilect has already reached out to me. I will reach back to her and tell her about the interesting conversation we had this evening.
You know, I think it does not specify how you have to do the proxy process. You know, we provide notice to our whole community for these meetings via our website. Like that's deemed adequate. You know, I think, you know, if there's some sort of language, yeah, in the ballot that says, you know, or by proxy, and you provide a mechanism to that, and we creates a form that, you know, allows that proxy vote to happen, that's down in admin, that people can get either emailed to them or pick it up in person. You know, and we could basically make the proxy voting be, you know, you do, if you're gonna do a proxy vote, then that person needs to come down. That proxy then has to come down during the in-person voting time to, you know, do that execute that action, basically.
I'll talk to Unilect. I think you're talking about, I think you have apples and oranges here, but maybe I'm wrong. I know when we discussed about going to mail-in voting, it's very different than by proxy. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they do a lot of different elections, a lot of different types of elections. I think they should be able to give us some sort of, idea of what, they see from other entities that maybe offer all three methods of voting at once.
Okay, I think most places offer one, but I will ask and you will have an answer probably by Tuesday. Seeing
Oh, yeah, I mean,
probably they're off on Monday also.
If Unilec doesn't have any advice for us, then, the N&E committee is gonna need to come up with a process for how we do that, how we execute that. And yeah, like I said, I don't think the proxy voting has to meddle necessarily with the ballots. Why, if someone has a mail-in ballot, why do they need to get a proxy to fill out that mail-in ballot form and send it in? Like,
Because you're saying state law says I have to offer it to them. I may have a question for you to send to Richard. Because I want
that state law isn't saying that the proxy has to cover mail-in ballots. It's saying that we have to offer in-person absentee ballots or by proxy. It's not saying that the proxy vote has to cover the absentee ballot. It's just saying that we have to offer some version of proxy voting.
I think you're gonna have to talk to Richard, because I think if it's a proxy, it still has to cover all of the same things that are voted on with the mail-in ballot. All the measures, all the candidates. It has to cover all of that.
So proxy is just a form that they fill out, and then they're basically giving their proxy to somebody. It's just a form.
Yeah, it's not a special ballot or anything.
No, they can use the same ballot. And the other thing is that I mean, we could potentially ask them to have it notarized, just to make sure it's the right person.
But I think there's something, I'd have to go back and look. It's been years since we did it. But I think that there are also people, you can, like I say, I can assign you my proxy, but I think we had to have two different individuals that people could assign their proxies to. I'd have to dig, well, I gotta dig to find the forms and stuff. And we may have to talk to Richard more about this. Or possibly the parliamentarian. Because I think she's done our stuff long enough that she might know what it was like when we did proxies. But I'll be happy to look into it. It's really short notice to be deciding this, And like I say, I'll look at 2403 and see what it says.
Linda, how often does a proxy happen?
How often does that's the only way we used to vote before we went to mail-in ballots.
But right now, how often does that happen?
We don't do it now.
We don't do it now.
Okay.
It's either mail-in or it's mail-in or in person, but it's the same ballot. It's not a proxy ballot.
Sure.
Proxies are a different kind of an animal.
Gotcha.
Yes, you can vote it for yourself and do your whole signature and stuff. I'll try and see if I have some old proxy forms here. And I've got a wealth of old stuff, but I don't know if I still have the old proxy forms. But it makes it very difficult to also count. But I will talk to Unilec. I'll take a look at the state law besides the Homeowners Act, because I don't know which one that whole thing goes under, and I'll take a look at all of these and see where we go from there. And like I say, I can talk to the N&E committee on the 13th. We already have tentatively, we haven't posted it yet, but we know we're meeting on the 13th. One of the things that I'd like to talk about, as long as we're talking about changing it up here, is, did you also then add? Just a minute. Then if we have to do this, member in good standing, it should have been added in here under measure 6 by proxy, if you're going to insist on adding that in there. Because it says this vote shall be by ballot or in person at the meeting based on the number of lots owned.
I mean, we could add that language. I mean, state law dictates it over our bylaws regardless,
So
but
how much do you want to encourage the proxies? If you like,
What did you say, Sonia?
I said,
missed
how
that.
much do you want to encourage the proxies? Because the law is going to overrule it, but you could leave it out. I'm just saying, but
yeah.
I'm just saying proxy is a whole different animal.
But yeah, that could be added, you know, to this language, obviously. We would have to then insert. I don't know if we have that specific part of the language in
so
this
I think
document right
that how about we hold that one till the next meeting? We can just double check. Everybody can double check on it. That way we're not. Does that sound good?
And I did take a look. Richard did highlight that and or setting forth the matters to be submitted to the membership on that first one.
Can you send me can you send me what he sent you on this? I don't care about the other ones, but I'd
Yeah,
like
we
to
can-
see what he said about this particular measure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
I
then
have- Go ahead.
just to clarify something too, because he says his interpretation of the new law is that members must be allowed to vote in each of these 3 ways. So proxy is a different way of voting than the other 2.
Yes.
So it's not like a proxy ballot, like specifically you only get a proxy ballot if you filled out the proxy form appropriately.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'd have to go look, I'm telling you, it's been years. I
So you
think,
could, I believe
think
you could
each-
just say that in order to vote by proxy, you need to hand over your vote to someone else and they need to vote in person to be able to do it by proxy. That way you've eliminated the whole unelect from the equation and the mail-in ballot, and that stuff's all itself. You know, the only thing you would need to double check if you do get a proxy ballot submitted, that there's also not a mail-in ballot from that same property owner.
that's what I'm saying. It really complicates if you're gonna do all of these. And it complicates and can possibly really cause an issue with counting. Because that's where we used to have the most problems with counting. We would have to go back, if you're not gonna have unelect count and we're not gonna do mail-in ballots, then you have to take counting in the membership back in, and then put these people in a room and they have to go through the proxies.
So why wouldn't you just treat it the same as the replacement ballots? You know, because you always have to verify that somebody didn't vote that ballot, you know, like they went and got a replacement ballot, they got a mail-in ballot. So you always have to verify that they didn't vote twice. Why wouldn't you could just treat it the same way?
Because in theory, AJ's saying that you wouldn't get a proxy ballot from unelect. You'd only get the mail-in ballot if you needed it
But it's
replaced.
still the
It's
same
the same
process.
ballot. Yeah, it's the same ballot.
You gotta
So
double check either way, whatever ballot it is.
Like I'm saying, I think the proxy form is completely different than everything that gets put on a mail-in ballot. If I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, we had several different, as Sonia says, forms that have your signed signature for each one of the things you vote on.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is the mail-in ballot system is completely separate. If someone wants to proxy their vote to someone else, they go to admin, they get the form, they get all the signatures that they need to get. They bring that down for in-person voting and they submit that proxy form. And at that point, they get that ballot then at in-person voting. And then those proxy ballots would need to be, you would need to look at that lot and that address and make sure that that proxy ballot didn't also submit a mail-in ballot as well. But that's the same process we have to go through as if someone requested a replacement ballot from Unilec. We'd have to verify that those weren't double dipped to make sure there's no double votes there.
And that's easy to do because Unilec, if they issue a replacement ballot, they do that and they have everything consecutively numbered. That won't be happening with the proxies the way you're proposing to do it. And you're gonna
I'm not saying it's not an additional step. I don't think it's that complicated or that difficult though, I guess.
Can I suggest that we just table this until our next meeting, and that'll give everybody a chance, like you can talk with Richard, Linda can talk with Unilec and her committee, and then we're meeting again next week. How about that?
Well, next week is gonna be the 9th when you meet and you're supposed to finalize what's going on the AGM ballot and adopt the budget.
So you
You're not
need to find a
gonna have mailing go
solution.
out on time.
You've got to find a solution before that. No, just joking.
Well,
That's fine.
I guess if we'd have gotten all this stuff to Richard earlier and he could have told us,
He
and I
did.
wonder if he would have said anything if we went to have this one measure in there. Or if it had even come up, because it's funny, nobody said anything until then.
I was not aware of the law change myself, so.
Well,
I know, but that's kind of why we have an attorney, isn't it? To tell us about these
he
things.
did tell us. I mean, like, I don't understand.
I'm just saying, I'll look into it with what time I have.
Okay, so we'll help you too. And so AJ's going to talk to Richard, and then we'll work on our side too.
Yeah, because I can work over the weekend and see what gets picked apart here and, because that's what's the problem is there's some things that are said in the RCW we were formed under, and then there's the Homeowners Act that came not until 1995. But one of the things I wanted to ask regarding these measures, just in trying to plan ahead here a little bit, is currently you have them all over the place. And what I'd like to do is try and put them in order, unless you have a preference of why you put them in the order you did. If we could put them in the order that they come in the bylaws. We go from Article 2, Section 2 and Article 2, Section 7, which is the one that we're talking about with the member in good standing, to going to then way down to Article 3 and then Sections 18 and 19. And can we put them in the order that they, or do you have them in that specific order for a reason? Because you're kind of jumping all over.
You're saying it goes Article 2, Article 3.
The N&E one's Article 2 as well. So
Well,
she's
I
saying
did
that
that
way.
to separate it because of what we talked about. It was just separated on there because it was an additional conversation. And so I was just holding it back so that we could get through the ones that were clean and that we didn't need more discussion on. That's actually why I did it.
I'm just saying, if they're in the pamphlet booklet, can they go in the order that they're in
Yeah,
the
so you're just talking
bylaws?
about moving
Just the one. It's just that all the three that do with borrowing and amendments on limitation on assessments and special assessments, that's all in Article 3, but the one for in good standing, that's in Article 2. And if people are gonna go look in their bylaws, it'd be nice to have it in some sort of order.
I agree.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't see any issues with that. So in the order of kind of moving some of these off our plate, I guess I would like to vote on the ones that we seem to all be in agreement on.
2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. And so we'll do this.
You need to vote them separately.
I'll do them separately. Yeah. So I make a motion to include measure 2, the bylaw amendment to exclude member petitioned assessment increases with the statement and or the matters to be submitted to the membership for a vote to also be underlined as not displayed in our current agenda packet, to be included on the in the ballot for the annual general meeting.
Second.
All right. So we will make. Is there any further discussion on that? All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor? All right. I'm assuming Joel's hand up means in favor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he has his hand up.
You want to type yes in the chat, Joel, so we know that's what your intentions are with that? Okay.
Josh, hold on one sec. Joshua said he's trying to get in. I guess he got dropped or something. So he's trying to call back in.
Not sure what would be preventing that.
He said he can't hear in text. He said, I can't hear.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
I don't see him in here anymore.
Yeah, he got thrown out, or he left out.
And Joel said yes.
Yes. I'm asking if I'm waiting on
There he
you.
is.
Okay. Hello.
Hey,
Sorry
Josh.
about that. I just got home.
No worries. We just voted on measure 2. So far it's unanimous to approve. What would and we also made sure to highlight the language that was not currently highlighted. Would you be
Okay, I don't think
voting?
I can vote now, can I? I'm in agreement with that, so
Yeah, we literally are like in the process of it.
you can count me as an aye.
Okay. So that's unanimous. All right. I'll make a motion to include measure 3, bylaw amendments to clarify borrowing and special assessment purposes to the AGM ballot.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on measure 3? All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. I'll make a motion to include measure 4, a second measure related to bylaw amendments to clarify borrowing and special assessment purposes to the AGM ballot.
Second.
All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. I'll make a motion to include measure 5, a bylaw amendment to clarify the annual limitation on special assessments to the AGM ballot.
Second.
All right, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously.
AJ, can I get from you as long as these are in blood here now, can I actually get you language other than a PDF? Can I actually get, so I can do some cut and paste from you, Word documents, please?
Yeah, we can get you
Of these ballots we've approved.
Yeah, we can get the Word document stuff to you. And then as far as measure 6, Sonia?
I thought we were finished. I was going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna
Finish it,
say,
Richard.
as far as Measure 6 goes, then we will, Linda's gonna talk to Unilec. I'll talk to Richard. I'll send what Richard sent to us to the board here, and then we'll circle back at the next meeting with that and make the final decision on that. I think that's where we're at this point with that one. So we don't really need to do anything. We'll circle back next Thursday on that one. And then next Thursday we'll be finalizing and doing the budget vote, and we'll include Measure 6 as well at that time. Sonia?
I just wanted to thank Nancy Algonac and Joel Dobbins, who worked on the document review committee on most of these, other than all of them except the N&E bylaw. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Here.
All right. So that's the bylaw amendments. I put AGM discussion on there because I had a distinct feeling that Linda was going to have some conversation related to the in-person voting and the proxy stuff after we got that information from Richard here when we put this out. And but I think just a general discussion here, about the AGM. I know Linda had some other points she wanted to discuss with the board related to that as well. So yeah, I see Linda's already got her hand up. So go ahead, Linda.
So we are definitely doing a Zoom meeting, correct? Yes. Correct. Okay, just want to make sure we're not going to do a hybrid of some people in the audience. I'm just checking. I need to get with John.
I guess we could do an official motion for that just to make sure. I shouldn't just say yes, but I've been keeping the board meetings via Zoom because the Delta variant, the mask mandate coming back in place, everything associated with that. As much as I'd like to get back in person and interacting with all of our community members, and I certainly do miss the atmosphere that we've created over the last few years of the board meetings. It's, there is a risk associated with that. So maybe we have a quick discussion and we can make a vote on that just to make it official. Steffi?
I wanted to say, you guys know I'm a nurse. Last week I was in a home where there was COVID. So, and this is from people who are vaccinated. So if y'all want to get chummy with me, I'm up for it. But it's real and it's going around the kids and things like that. So also, I don't know how much time we have for some of the extras, the extra meetings. I understand the board meeting, those type of things, but I think that it is really saving some time. And when we were down bodies, that was nice. So I would just like everyone to keep that in mind. Those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Well, I guess just to make this official, I'll make a motion to host our annual general meeting via Zoom.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Sam, you raised your hand. You want to say something?
No, I was just ready to move on with the question.
Okay. Does anybody else have any concerns or comments on that? All right, well, let's call the question on that. All those in favor of a Zoom meeting for the annual general meeting?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. There you go, Linda. You got your official motion answer.
Thank you. I just, it's
No more
like,
discussion on that.
when you start putting it together, that is what it is. I have a question for Kim. And that is do you know when the earliest is I can get from Joel all the stuff that he sends me for the budget, which is pages of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, he's got it. It's on. He's ready to go. It'll be there for next week for the vote.
Oh, excellent, because then I can throw it in and ask him if I need to do anything with any of the, sometimes he has to modify stuff a little bit for it to fit on my pages.
Mm.
It's
Okay, and Kim, I just want to be clear. Kim just must not have seen her email because he literally sent it like right when we came into the meeting. That's why I know it. I would have my phone up. So he
I
sent
saw
it right when we were.
it.
Yeah, he sent it
Hey,
right when we
I
came
saw it,
in.
but I saw his email, but we were
Yeah.
Zoom, find the meeting with the Zoom links.
He was trying to slip it in there before the meeting, so that that we knew
It's just,
it's like
the
ready.
sooner I have that, I have to say, of all the things that I work with him the most back and forth. If there's things that have to be adjusted a little bit to fit to the pages and stuff, you know, some of the stuff that you send, most of the time it's just fine. But like, he sends me the whole bylaw measure. If we get a lot of this stuff, what I wanted to say, I should be able to put something together for the 9th. If you get this stuff to me right away, that's pretty much what you need to vote on for you to get a look at a draft of what the budget's going to be and that you're going to be presenting to the membership that you're going to adopt.
And Joel's wrapping up the reserve study with that consultant right now. So that's the last kind of to that, what needs to get put together.
I think that's just one sheet, but I can look and tell you what it is. Just a minute.
But yeah, we'll get all that prepped here and
As soon
we'll
as
have
you
it
can
ready.
get it, that's the best. Usually his stuff, and I know.
He's aware of it. He's got it on his.
Okay. It's just last time he went down to the wire on that. It's like, he was going, please, please. I'm going, no, no.
No, he's got it.
Okay. That's cool. The sooner you send it, the better off it's going to be that I can start putting this together. You still need an agenda. That may be something that's going to take some talking. Usually that's done by the board secretary.
We'll get that put together this weekend as well. I think I have to write a little spiel as well.
No, you have to write a one-page, blah, 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 a one-page letter to the community.
You mean I don't get like a 6-page diatribe to go in there?
Well, if I'm really
I'm just
little, I
kidding.
can make it 2.3.
No, I'll
Five.
keep it short and brief, and
That's cool.
but I'll work on that this weekend as well, and we'll get all that included in our agenda packet.
Okay, the agenda, what I wanted to say, and I can send you guys the sample from last year. There's all those reports and there's just some stuff that's not, I don't think, is going to be on this year's agenda. And maybe I do well to send you guys a sample and highlight what I think you're not going to deal with this year. Like, I don't think you're going to have a general manager report. Last year, we spent all the time we did on.
We'll put together a GM report. It'll basically.
Or maybe be a community report.
We'll put together a report with staff to make sure we have something along those lines.
Okay.
I'll work with our managers on that.
Now I have a next question for somebody, and that usually Rachel handled this. Are you going to use the same parliamentarian we've always used? We have to have a parliamentarian.
So we can just talk to Rachel about that tomorrow, maybe.
You know, because usually well, here's the reason why I say that. We went through the whole thing with Ann last year of creating a whole new, you get a script, or the board gets a script. And mostly it affects AJ more than anything, being board president. but you get a script and she worked through that because the script before that had to do with all the things we did with an in-person meeting. A Zoom meeting is completely different. And if you use somebody new, you should probably be willing, you should be looking at somebody now so they get a heads up and get a look at what they're going to do for you, that sort of thing. But I just, it'd be nice to know if you're going to use Ann or not. I don't care. It just has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, we'll talk to Rachel and we'll get all that figured out this weekend as well.
Okay, that works. So there was a whole thing where the board said the executive committee said they were going to get back with me about how we're going to handle staff and being able to deal with this AGM, the balloting, the vetting that has to be done, setting up meeting rooms and stuff. I have heard nothing from you guys. I've got the whole candidate meeting coming up and I don't know who's going to be doing what, because you've said you wanted the ability to divide up her jobs and get back to me, and nobody's gotten back to me.
Yeah, Rachel's been pretty busy with a few things on her last few days or whatever. She's still staying on with us, to assist with things, but I needed her to do some things before her full time was up. But we can get all of that squared away. We can have a quick meeting with Rachel, next week to kind of put that together.
My problem is on Tuesday after 4 when it closes, I have to have things ready to go for the drawing, for opening the applications. I don't have a location. I haven't been able to talk with John with what we did last year. You basically told me you didn't want me contacting staff. You didn't want me
Okay, but
sneaking
you did
around,
contact
AJ.
staff, Linda. You were talking to them, and you know that. We all know it. The thing
Excuse
is
me, ma'am?
that because you've been working with them.
Wait,
and
why is this going like this? Can we all keep
I'm
a
just trying
professional tone?
to clarify that it's all taken care of. That Joel will be handling the vetting part. Rachel is still an employee of Sudden Valley. All it is she's not on site. So Rachel's going to be available too. But a lot of aspects of this are going over to Gil and they're going over to Joel, and which is what I was trying to say. And so it's all going to be taken care of, and we'll circle back around with you to make sure that it's all resolved. But Joel has worked with you before on doing all the vetting. He said that they do that every year, and so they're comfortable doing it again. And so it should go really smooth. They're not anticipating anything. There's Rachel designated several people, plus she's retaining certain oversight of certain aspects of it.
But that's what I'd like to know that I don't know. You know it, but I don't know it.
That's what we're saying. We're going to, like I said, she just moved off site. So we'll get all that together and everything.
I'm just saying I need that by Tuesday. Today is tomorrow.
We'll get it.
Staff is going to be there on Monday. Like I said,
things get a little busy when we have some transitions in place, and I'm sorry that I didn't get back to you as quickly as you wanted. I assure you I've not forgotten about it. I'm working on it. I just, I only got so much time in the day myself, as well. So
You have a full-time job and a family, AJ?
Yep. And Rachel's got the same, and I assure you we'll get it done, Linda. I promise.
I know. It's just if I could have met with Rachel when I wanted to, that's all I wanted her to do is exactly the things Sonia's talking about.
I know, but we needed some things. We needed to take care of some things before Rachel's last day. That was just that was the priority. So I'm sorry. I should have been a little more clear with that. That's just what needed to happen. But Rachel is still on staff and employed, and we are getting it all covered.
Okay.
It's gonna be okay, Linda.
Do we have any more AGM
Your lips to
discussion?
God's ears.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take it as a good thing.
All right, if we don't have any further discussion on the AGM, then I think we move into the last round of property owner comments and we will all then head home.
Yeah, we do have a hand raised now. I'll go ahead and bring Nancy on over.
I'm already home, AJ. I have news for you.
Nancy
right, Nancy.
Alyanak, 4 Sandalwood Circle. I'm a member of the N&E committee, and I'd like to assure Linda, I am at your disposal for whatever you need. Please, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Longtime resident Nancy Alyanak. Thank you so much for all your help.
Anybody else?
Superstars.
Just use a raise hand in Zoom and I'll bring you over. Not seeing any further hands there, Mr. President.
All right, with that being the case, then I think it's time to move to adjournment. Something.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
I
All right, thank you everyone for